So today's lesson is going to be about MongoDB, and we'll start by downloading MongoDB. So you would go to www.mongodb.com/download center. This one here. So this is the website, www.mongodb.com download center. Now when you get here, you want to go to Community Server tab, which is this one here. And the version that I want to install is not the one that is installed as a service, because we're like just learning. We don't need to make this a service. If we make it a service, it's going to slow down our computer, and we don't need that. If you install the zip file, you can extract it in a folder, run a daemon, and when you don't need it, you kill the daemon, and that way it doesn't slow down your machine. So I suggest you go to all version binaries here, click on that, and then you have these different versions here. So as you can see, I probably want this one here. This one is a zip version. All you do is extract it and then just use what's in the bin folder. So that's what I'm going to use now. So I'll save this locally. And it's not too big. It's only 233 megabytes. It's pretty small. So it's now downloaded. I can go and open the folder. Now if you look at this zip file, if you look at the properties in Windows, sometimes Windows flags zip files that come from an unknown source as far as Windows is concerned as being malicious. So it is always recommended to check zip files when you download them to see if it has this checkbox here, unblock. And if it does, check it and go apply. What it does is it goes into the files inside that zip file and unflags all of them as being safe. Now that we've made everything safe in the zip file, let's go back in here, grab the bin folder, and then go to the folder that I created here, Mongo, and paste it again. That way we know that we won't get into problems. So now that we have it extracted here, you can go into a command prompt. Add that folder. And the first thing you want to do is to create a directory where you're going to keep your data. So I'm going to make a directory here, and I'm going to call it data. Now this sort of thing, you can do it in the Mac, in Windows, it really doesn't matter. So I created a directory called data. If I look at what I have in here, one of the files is this daemon, MongoD. This is the one that will start the database. So I'm going to type here MongoDB path. I'm telling it where it's going to store the data, and I'll tell it store the data in the data folder that I just created. And there's another switch here, REST, meaning make the data accessible through REST as JSON objects, okay? So if I run this, it comes up and it tells me, you know, it's opening a port number, and is it okay to use that port number? I'm going to say okay. You can see something is happening. So now the database is running, and it's expecting connections using the port number. Okay, I'll show you what it is. I'll write it in Notepad. So it is MongoD --db path data and then REST. Now there are two port numbers you need to know about. 28 27017 and 27017. Now, this port number 8017 is used for administering your database. And this one is for requests to the database. Okay, what do I mean by administering the database? Now you'll notice here that it says connect. It's expecting connections on 27017. So it's expecting connections in terms of requests on that port number. But as far as administration is concerned, if you go to http://localhost:28017, let's find out what's there. You end up on a website that allows you to manage your database. It's not a very clean website. In fact, there are other web or let's say management controls that are a little bit more nicer than this. But you can play with this if you like. Now that we have our database running, let's open another command window so that we can do a few things with this database. To do that, let's call Mongo, which opens up the terminal window for Mongo, which allows you to do a bunch of things. So CLS will clear the screen. Now to create a database, it's very, very easy. To create a database, you use the command use, say customer DB. Now, if the database exists, it will make that the default database. If it doesn't exist, it will create it. Okay, so here I'm going to say enter, and it said switch to database, customer database. Now that didn't exist before. If I type in DB, it will tell you what is the default database that it's now pointing to. Typically, you want to create a user. If this was a database that is being used by multiple people, it's a good idea to create a user so that any request that comes to that database has to be using a particular credential, so you know who's the one who's connecting to it. So for that purpose, I'm going to enter db.create user, and let's say I want to create user Bob. And the password would be, say, 123. And the roles, you can add that user to a bunch of roles. One of them is read write, and another one could be DB admin. So now it says successfully added user Bob with the roles read write DB admin. If I want now to get the users that I have, I can say db.getUsers, and it will tell me the users that I have. At the moment, the only user I have in this database is Bob, and it tells you the roles, DB admin and read write. You can also say show users, and it gives you the same information. So it's either db.getUsers or just show space users. Sometimes there are multiple commands that do the same thing. Now, let us create a collection in this database. The collection is the equivalent of a table in a relational database. So to create a collection, you go db.create collection. And then you give the name of the collection, customers. The output that comes back has OK equals to 1. And that basically means it's successful. If it came up with OK equals to 0, it means it's not successful. Let's enter some data into this collection called customers. So if you want to enter data, you have to go db.customers .insert, and here you enter a JSON object. For example, I can say first name equals to John and last name equals to Doe. So it says inserted equals to 1. It means the insertion process is successful. If I want to show what I have in that collection, in the customers collection, I can say db.customers.find. Okay? And this gives me the contents of my document. And you will notice that we have now a new field in that document. And that field is this object ID. That's a unique ID that the database has given that particular document. There's another way to do a find. You can go .pretty. And when you do .pretty, it shows the document in a nicer fashion that's more pleasing to the eye. So if I want to insert multiple documents, I can insert them all in one command. So here I'm saying customers insert, and the first document has a first name, a last name, and a gender. The second one has no gender. So you can see that each document doesn't comply with the schema of another document. So now let's go in here and paste this. You can see now that it says it inserted 4 documents. Now if I want to see all of them, I can go again db.customers.find, and I can say pretty. And it will show it to me in a prettier fashion. Now, let us say maybe I want to add a gender to this document for Simon. So I want to search for Simon and give Simon a gender because he doesn't have a gender. So I can do something like this. I can say db.customers.update, and then I want to make something like a where clause. So I want to say find the document where the first name equals to Simon. And change the gender to male. So you use the keyword set gender to male. hit enter. So what it comes back saying is it did match 1 and it modified 1, but upserted is 0. What upserted means is that if it didn't find that document, it could have created it, and that's not what happened here. So now if I go and I look at all the records I have, and here is my Simon, he had no gender, now he has a gender. Now let me give Simon an age, for example. So I'm going to come here and say set age for Simon and make it say 40. So again, it matched and it modified. If I go and look at Simon again, here Simon, he's a male and his age is 40. If I want, I can also increment Simon's age by whatever number. So let me go back to this query, and I can say, instead of set, I can say increment age by 5. This means that it's going to increment 40 by 5, it will make it 45. So if you hit enter, again it matched and it modified. So let's go and see what it is. It actually changed Simon's age to 45. You can delete a document and you can also delete a field. Let's say I go back to Simon and I don't want Simon to have an age at all. So I can delete that field for Simon. So let me go back here, and if I want to get rid of his age column, I can say unset age, and I don't say age equals to 5, I say age equals to 1, and that 1 means true. Basically 1 in this scenario means true. So if I hit enter, again it says it matched 1 and it modified 1, and if we go and check what we have, you will see that Simon now has no age. So we blew away a field. Okay, so now let us say I go back here, but this time I'm not going to go to Simon. I'm going to go and search for somebody that doesn't exist. Let's say Roger. I know Roger doesn't exist. If I hit enter, you see that zeros across the board. It didn't find, it didn't modify, it didn't upsert. So if it cannot find, that's it. Now, if I want to upsert, in other words, I want to actually insert that record, what I can do is I can say set so and so, and then down here I can say comma upsert equals to true. And now we get a different message. It tells us, yes, I upserted it. I didn't find it, so no match, no modified, but there's an upsert. And it came back with the object ID of that document. So if I go now into a find, here it is. We only entered Roger at the age of 40, right? Something else that you can do is you can rename a field if you want to. If you want to refactor. Refactoring is, there's nothing wrong with refactoring. So instead of gender, for example, I want to call it that field sex. So I can do something like that. I can say, go to, for example, me use some of this. Go to Simon. Okay, and rename the gender field to sex. So modified, matched. Let's go back and have a look. So if I go down to Simon, the column name or the field name here became sex and not gender. So I can refactor if I want to. What happens if I want to delete a document? Deletion is always very easy. So what I'll do here is, let's go back. Roger, so I'm going to say, for customers, I'm going to say remove first name this is it. Go to the customers collection and remove where first name equal to Roger. So you can see now the bottom row here I have Roger, and when I execute this, it is removed equals to 1. So now if I do a find, Roger is gone. You may want to do a delete, but only do the first one. An example, let us say we have, say, 2 females. The 2 females we have are Jane and John Fraser. Let's say I want to do a delete for all that are gender is female, but I just wanted to do 1. You can do something like this. DB customers where gender is female, okay, and then you can say just 1 is true. And notice here, true is a Boolean. It's not surrounded in quotations. It's just a Boolean. So it says removed equals to 1, which means, is it John Fraser or is it the other one that has been removed? Let's find out. So it's the first one, Jane. Jane is gone and John Fraser is there. So we asked it just to do 1. So let us insert more documents. So I just inserted more documents. Let me hit enter here. And the documents I inserted are 5 documents. And I'll just show them in Notepad so that you can see what they are. So I inserted, for example, this one. First name is Sue, black, gender female, and I have a birth date. So how do you enter a date? You actually add a JavaScript date object in there. And weight in pounds, 133. And then here, you can have an address. So this is, you could say it's an embedded JSON object. And here you've got a membership, which is mem1, mem2. The membership could be like they belong to the, let's say, guest role, and they belong to the visitor role, etc., etc. But I just put mem1, mem2, and then the balance. And there are a couple of these. The purpose behind this is so that we can do some query. Let's find all the people whose first name is Tom. So I can go db.customers.find, and I'll say here I want all the first name Tom. So it found for me a record or a document, and I can say pretty. I want it to show it to me in a pretty fashion. So it found for me 1 Tom. There's only 1. I can do an OR. Let me recall that one and say if I want to get all the documents whose first name is, say, Tom or first name Anne, I can put an OR. And the way you do an OR is like this. You go $OR, you enter a column, and you put this into an array. So here I go comma, first name is Anne. Okay. If you hit enter, I have a syntax error. I'm missing a curly brace before OR, which is here, and then I close it here. Let's try that. Yes. So now it got me Tom and Anne. Let's say I want to get all the females. Now I know I have one female from before, but possibly I may have added another female. So let's go find gender is female. And that's all I need to do. Okay, so how many females do I have here? I have quite a few. I think I have 3. Now, when you look at the city where they reside is inside of an embedded JSON object, because you have your main JSON object, and in there's another JSON object address, and then you have a city. So suppose I want to get all the people who live in Richmond, who live in Vancouver, and so on, then I can use the dot operator to get from the main JSON object through the address into the city. So I would do something like that. I can say, get me all the folks who live in address dot city, and that is Vancouver, for example. You see, so it got me all those who are living in Vancouver, and I have a few of those. Suppose I want to get a specific document by object ID. There are circumstances where you want to get by primary key. So to get by primary key, I'm just going to copy this. Let's say I want to get this one here. So I can go MongoDB customers dot find, and this particular field ID, that is a special field. I'm going to say where ID is equal to the object ID being this thing that I have in memory. So it found me that particular ID. So I can access by primary key, which is the object ID. Another way of doing the same thing is this. you can just say object ID that. Gives you the same thing. One is shorter than the other, but both of them, they work. Suppose I want to find by date. I want to find all those whose birth date is a specific date. So let's have a look here. We have this guy, his birth date is 1999-01-14. It converts it into ISO dates. So if I want to get that one, let's remember here it's 1999-01-14. So I'm going to do this. (1999-01-14). Okay, and pretty. Let's just make sure we have the right. No, this is wrong here. This should be like that. So I did find this specific person who's born 1999-01-14. How about sorting and ordering? Let's say I want to sort my collection by last name in ascending order. So I can go db.customers.find all of them and sort all of them by last name 1. Let's see what it did. I wanted it by last name. So at the bottom is white. And let's go to the top. We have Doe. It seems to have done it. And brown. So it sorted it by last name. So let's see if we can sort it in descending order. So let's recall this. And instead of 1, we're going to do -1. And when you do -1, Baker comes to the bottom. And I'm sure white is at the top. Suppose I want to do a count. I can go here, and instead of pretty, I can say count. How many do I have? I've got 9. Suppose I say here dot limit 4. No count, sorry. Let us not do count without the count. I'm saying just give me 4 documents. So you can say limit and you just pick up the first 4. You can, if you want, embed some JavaScript inside of your query. Why would you embed JavaScript? Because you may want to format the output in a specific way. And you're not happy with pretty, you're not happy with the way those JSON objects are displayed, then what you can do is you can create a function, a JavaScript function, and embed it into a for each method. So here you're saying function doc. For every document in the collection, I want you to print first name and perhaps put a space here or maybe put a colon or something and follow that by the first name that's coming from the document. So let's take this and paste it here. I formatted my output in a manner that I want. And it's nicer than looking at JSON objects sometimes. So I'm going to exit out of this Mongo command line terminal. You can type in exit and it'll take you out of there. And I'll close this. I don't need it anymore for the moment. So let's go to Mongo Labs. So the address for that is mlab.com. Okay. And if you have an account, log in. And I'm going to enter as me. I'll create a new database by clicking create new here. Now, you can create a database in any of these cloud platforms, on Amazon, on Google, or on Azure. I'm just going to choose this one, the default. So I want to choose the sandbox and continue. Choose US East and continue. Now the database name, let me call it customer-db. Continue. Submit order. So this is a free database. If you click on this database with it just created customer database, it will take you into the database itself. You need to create users for the database. So click on users and then add a database user. So let's enter a username. So we need to add a database user. So I'm going to click on this, add database user. And it comes up and it says, okay, what's the username? And I'm going to say my name, for example. Password. You can check this make read only if you want to, which means that user can only read, cannot update. So now I have a user. Let's click on collections. I'm going to create a collection called students. So I'm going to create a student collection here. So now we created a students collection in Mongo Labs. Here it is. Let's click on that. When you click on that, here you're allowed to add a document. When you add a document, you're just going to add a JSON object. In Mongo Labs, using this interface, you can't add an array of documents or multiple documents. You can only do one at a time. So let's do that. We're going to add a document, and I have some documents here. So I'm going to add them one at a time. So I'm going to take this, copy it, and paste it here. And create and continue editing. So I'm going to create and continue editing. So it returned for me this one. Save and go back. So you can see that it actually added one of my documents. So let me add another document. Come here and add the next one. Copy, paste, and I'll say create and go back. Let's go and add the next one. And I think we have two more. Just one more. So we have now 4 documents in the collection basically. If you like, you can access this database from your Mongo terminal. Let's see how that works. So I'm going to go into the place where I installed Mongo, and I'll drop into a command line here. Made a mistake here. Mongo exe --no db. I'm telling it that, you know what, I'm not dealing with a local database. I want to talk a remote connection. Now, if you go to the database level in your Mongo Labs, you should see a command that looks like this. What this means is that if you want to hit this database, you have to use this sort of connection string, ds257627.mlab.com : this port number. Okay, so I'm going to copy this, and I'll park it in Notepad. This is what I need to talk to that database remotely. So from within my command line here, I'm going to enter the following. I'm going to say var connection equals to new Mongo, and I'll pass it this connection string here. Now, once you have that connection object, you can connect to the database. So I can say var db equals use the connection object to talk to that database. You can say get db and then put the name of your database. I called it customer-db. Let me just confirm that that's the name of my database. The name of my database is customer-db, as you can see here. Hit enter. Now, I need to authenticate against that database. So it found the database, but you have to pass credentials. And the credential is not the credential by which you created your MLab account. It's the credential that you created for the database. So these are 2 different credentials. It's not the one you're logging into Mongo Labs, but the one you assigned to that database. So here you would enter db.authorize, and in my case, I entered my name and my password. So it's not connected to the database. Now let me say db.students.find. You see, I got the students, and this is coming from Mongo Labs. It's not on my machine. Now I can do multiple insertions here, unlike in Mongo Labs. I'm going to do db.students.insert, and I'm going to enter an array of students. So I can come here and paste this. And now if I do a find and say pretty, And let's take count. I have 8. I had 4 before, I added 4, now I have 8. And I can look at a pretty here. We will next look at how we can access any data that we put in Mongo Labs as JSON objects using REST. It is a quick and dirty way of throwing in some data in Mongo Labs and then using, something like Postman to update, delete, insert data or retrieve data. So let's see how to do this. Let me go to the So in order to do this, if you click on your username, in my case it is this, it takes you to a screen. And here you have to create an API key, because it is with this API key that you can start doing queries. So I'm going to regenerate this API key. You can regenerate it anytime you want. So now it creates for me another API key. It's very possible that you have disabled the API keys, so you may get a button here that says enable data API access. It all depends, okay? If it's disabled, then you want to enable it. So having done that, there are a couple of things that you can do. Here are some API requests that we can make against Mongo Labs to retrieve some data. Let's look at all these examples. I'm going to take the first one and repurpose it in Notepad. So if this is what I have as a template, for my purposes, I'm going to ask for all the databases that exist in my Mongo Lab. And for the key, I'm going to use the key that is here, this one here. Copy. So let me repurpose this and take this URL and then pop it here, for example. And it tells me there's only one database there. The next example is show me all the collections in that database. Let me repurpose this. So the next example says, okay, go to this database. I know it's called customer-db, and let me use the same key. Take this and paste it in here. So now it says the two collections that you have in that database are students, and then there is the system indexes collection. The next example is list for me all the documents in a specific database and a specific collection in that database. So the database is going to be customer-db, and the collection is students, and I have to pass it my unique API key. Now be very careful. When you are requesting data, if somebody knows your API key, it's wide open. They can go and look at your data. So if you do not want that, you have two choices. Either recreate another API key or disable API access. Also with an API key, you not only can retrieve data, you can even update data and insert data. So the API key here is critical. So let's take this and see what we can do with it. We want to see the contents of my collection. And this is all the stuff in my collection. Next example. Let us display all the students whose first name starts with Anne. I'm going to take this, post it here. I want to go against the customer DB. The student collection, and here is the query. You're passing a query where first name is Anne, and of course you have to pass your API key. And it says Anne, there is no Anne. Let's go back and look at everything that we have. Let's try Bob. Okay. There is a Bob, but there is no Anne. If it returns an empty set, that means there is no that document. This is all I have for the moment, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Thank you.